Only a valuable few truly understand life, love, each other, themselves, just in general. They just understand, they know what it means to live. However, many more do not. They don't understand what's happening, they don't understand what they just said, they don't understand why their actions keep going the way they don't want them to take. But what I'm trying to say is, with teenagers, many of them don't understand. They don't get it, it doesn't click in their mind, and I see this every day. I see many go up to one another and they'll talk and they'll be friends and they'll have a great time, but looking back, they're not sure how much of it they really meant. They're not sure if they meant to say that, if they meant that joke, they don't know if their friend is hurt or what. But they want each other to be happy, but what's difficult, and they don't truly understand it. Now for you, teenagers are our next generation. They're the ones who are going to become our inventors, creators, and the ones who are going to look at you as you get old, and they're going to take care of you. At least that's what you want, right? You want them to be there for you, and they're going to be there for you, as long as you're there for them now, because they need you. They have a problem in their mind with understanding. But you understand more because you've been here longer, so why don't we look at a few problems we have as we go. Now the first problem begins with anxiety, depression, and stress. Many teenagers don't get it. They don't understand what's happening in here. They don't understand what's happening in other people's minds as well. This emotional battles they have within themselves and with each other just adds up to stress and worry and concern, and their minds just float about in some state of unconsciousness, but they're still here. They're still conscious, they're still awake, but they don't like it. According to Violence and Victims, many teenagers will be aggressive and fight and hate each other, but looking back, they won't mean it. They'll fight and they'll throw a punch, but they felt that aggression was never justified. It was never right for them to attack. They didn't mean it. It was brash. It was rash. It was irrational. And it happened in the spur of the moment. They weren't thinking. They weren't taking into effect what consequences would happen after this was going through. And that leads me to my next problem. Unfulfilled promises. Many people will make a promise and they'll know they'll do it. They just know it in that moment because they made the promise, right? Right? However, that's not how it always works. Some people are manipulative. They'll make a promise and they'll get your hopes up and you'll be smiling, you'll be happy, but then they'll turn around and it'll just be shattered, just like that. Sometimes they don't mean it, but what if they do? You don't really understand. And they might not either. With other people, they might just not be able to say no. They'll make a promise and they'll want to keep it and they'll go as far as they can to keep it. However, they don't know how far they can stretch. They'll reach over the cliff. They'll reach as far as they can. But one day they're going to fall. When they fall, then you're both broken. And that's just something you don't want to see. Now, as we continue with these problems, there are a few solutions. My first solution begins with the school system. The school system is where all high schoolers go, all those teenagers who are ready to fulfill the future, who are ready to build it up higher than what you already placed it. But they're still a little blurry in the mind. They don't know exactly what they're doing, but they're getting there. They're determined. And one way that we can help them just take their blurriness and make it a little bit more clear and cut is we can add just maybe a psychology course. Psychology is the study of the human mind and behavior. And if this was mandatory, all teenagers would be able to better understand one another and themselves. Furthermore, as they go on with this, they'll be able to understand how their actions affect one another and how they will know whenever it has been too long or not long enough for one action to the next. Furthermore, as they're going on, they might want to know what's the best course of action to take. And a psychology class will help them because they'll be able to figure out what is true to say to one another. Now with my next problem that I had, people just couldn't understand themselves and they were all depressed and anxious and worried. But if we were to emphasize mental health in classes more often, if we were to put a bigger emphasis on people thinking of their minds and thinking of how to make it better, that would help so many problems. So many people would just be able to look at themselves and be like, I know what I'm doing now. They'll be able to understand their emotions, and they'll be able to figure out what is the best course of action to take with said emotions. They won't be so rash, so irrational, so quick to the point. And furthermore, they'll be able to know what is wrong. They'll be able to take it, and they'll be able to go on. Now, as I once said before, violence and victims did say that people were also causing issues. But according to the American Psychiatric Association, people who emphasized mental health and emphasized taking a psychology class in high school had fewer percent less cases of depression and suicidal thoughts and actions. Furthermore, there was less recordings of delinquencies and actions that could just, in general, cause trouble. Now, as I put this all together, the problems were very simple, but at the same time, they just didn't get it. Their mind was blurry and confused, and they just couldn't put one piece with the other. As they were going on, they just didn't know where to go. But by instigating a psychology class in high school, we'd be able to give them a clear path. By emphasizing mental health in college and high school, people would know where to go with their minds. This would help so much more people if they just took a second to look. Psychology is what we need. Psychology in high school, psychology just emphasized the learning of the mind. People would understand it all together. If you were to push for psychology, people would be better. The teenagers, as they grow up, would get it and it would click for them, and they'd be able to relate with one another. Thank you.